Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Veryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll chant Bhaja Govindam verses 16 to 20.
Akre vanni prishte bhanuh ratrau chubuka samarpita januh karatala bhikshastarutala vasah tadapi namunchatyasha pashah kurute ganga sagar gamanam vrata paripalanam atava danam Jnana-vihina sarvamatena muktim na bhajati janmashatena Suramandira-tarumula nivasah shayya bhutalamajinam vasah Sarva-parigraha bhoga-tyagah kasya sukam na karoti viragah Yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihinah Yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva Bhagavad Gita kinchitadita ganga jalalava kanika pita Sakridapiyena murari samarcha kriyate tasya yamena na charcha.
The first 13 shlokas were attributed to Adi Shankaracharya, the Guru, and then shloka number 14 onwards is supposedly given by each of the students of Adi Shankaracharya, one shloka. So we have seen up to shloka number 17. So in 14 he says, one with matted locks, one with head shaven, one with hair pulled out, one disguised variously with awkward robes, a fool though sees not. Indeed the varied disguise is for the sake of belly. So here he is talking about an impersonator, hypocrite, one who is pretending to be in spiritual field, but it is for the protection of the ego, it is for security, it is for the survival sake, that's why he says it's for the sake of belly. Though he is put on the vesha, akar robe, etc., but technically he is not spiritual, so he is not going to attain the benefit what the spiritual practice is supposed to bless anybody. He is not going to get that benefit. So he says in 14, an hypocrite, though he is so close, yet he misses it. Then in 15 he says he talks about a person who is completely indulging. So when a person totally indulges in life, what happens is his desires increase and the body loses the capacity to enjoy, and he is not going to get back to the self. He is not going to realize the truth. He is in fact going to be increasing the vasanas. So therefore he says, the body has become decrepit, head turned grey, mouth rendered toothless, clasping a staff, the old man moves about, yet the desires leaves not. Meaning, the person only increases the desire through the lifestyle of indulgence. Even that is not going to work. Then what about the so-called simple lifestyle, a withdrawal lifestyle? So he says, fire in front, the sun behind, knees stuck to chin at night, receiving arms in palms, living under trees, yet the band of desires leaves not. He goes on saying, band of desire doesn't leave. Doesn't matter what kind of lifestyle you follow. So there may be a person who is leading a very, very withdrawn lifestyle, denial lifestyle. But just because a person leads a denial lifestyle, living in, receiving alms in palms, he says, he doesn't even have a begging bowl, living under trees, all these are external. Yet the band of desires leaves not. And then in 17 he says, one proceeds where Ganges meets ocean, strictly observes vows, or is charitable, 100 lives, thus bereft of knowledge, is no way to liberation by all beliefs. So here he specifies very clearly. He says, he is now in this shloka talking about a person who is following the rituals and all that mechanically. He is following the so-called spiritual practices, but mechanically, not with awareness, not with understanding. He doesn't understand why the rituals are performed, what is the meaning, nothing he understands. And end of the day, the rituals are performed for the sake of exhausting the vasanas. In the sense, it purifies your mind, it brings your mind to a single pointed focus. Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagrata. And each ritual has its own, meaning. Why it is done, why this one should be done first, why the other one should be done next. There is a meaning. And when you say Ganges meeting the ocean, a person goes to that place. For what? Why is it talked about? The individual river merging with the total symbolizes the merger of ego. So there may be a lot of pilgrimages taken by this person, is charitable, does a lot of charitable activities. 100 lives a person may live like that, still nothing will happen to that person, bereft of the knowledge of the self, he says. So in other words, whatever you do, whether you lead a lifestyle of indulgence, in the sense being in the world, or withdrawn lifestyle, going away from grahastha ashrama, leading the external sannyas lifestyle, whatever it may be, if it is bereft of knowledge, it is of no use. You should know the self and follow it for that purpose with awareness. It's the knowledge that will take us away from all our attachments. Please understand this. There is no point fighting with mind. Or there is no point pandering to the mind's likes and dislikes. So mind will keep on having its own likes and dislikes. Mind will have n number of desires, n number of demands. You give in to the demands, then also it's a problem. You don't give in to the desires and demands and you pull yourself and force the mind, then also it won't work. Because you can pull your mind, body away. What about the mind? It's going to linger on that object and develop more and more desires. Therefore, we are supposed to gain the knowledge of the self, build the awareness. That's what we are supposed to do. When we get established with the higher, the lower automatically gives itself away. When a child is exposed to the higher realms of life, the toy world that the child is attached to automatically drops by itself. If you pull the toy forcefully from the child is only going to be completely, distressed by the fact that you have removed the object of the child's attachment. So therefore, it's not completely taking it away or going on indulging. It is having a balanced lifestyle with knowledge. In Vedanta Treatise book, Swamiji beautifully explains this process of gaining wisdom. He gives the example of making curd, yogurt. He says, you boil the milk and bring it down to lukewarm condition. And the milk that is in lukewarm condition, to that you add little jamun, little curd, and leave it overnight, then the curd sets in. Similarly, you should not be too much indulging in the world. Then you will be like very hot milk. Mind and milk here is compared. Milk, when he takes, it's white. So he's talking about sattvic mind. But when it is boiled too much, it becomes rajasic. Too much of rajasic lifestyle. Or when it is too cold, then it becomes tamasic. So you cannot make curd when the milk is very cold. You cannot make curd when the milk is very hot. It has to be lukewarm. Similarly, the mind has to be sattvic. Neither rajasic, indulgent, nor tamasic, non-thinking withdrawal. Lazy, lethargic lifestyle, which appears to be very simple from the external, but basically there is no awareness whatsoever. It's not sattva. So therefore he says you can follow many rituals mechanically also. But it's not going to work unless and until it is supplemented by the knowledge of the self. What will wake you up is the knowledge of the self. See, just because you study the Bhagavad Gita every day in this waking state doesn't mean you will wake up from this waking state and realize the self. But if you understand the meaning of the Gita, then your very identification changes, your perception changes. Today your identification is with the body, mind, intellect complex. Isn't it? So, when the identification is with the body, you have ahankar. When the identification is with the family, etc., you have mamakar. This ahankar and mamakar are the samsar. You understand? They entangle you. It is ahankar, means arrogance, ego, I-ness, and then mamakar meaning minus, possessiveness. Mine, me, mine, etc. These are the entanglements. Now, if this has to go, then you must have the true knowledge of who you actually are. So then you won't thereafter identify with these limiting factors called the body, mind, intellect anymore. Your identification shifts from the body, mind, intellect to the Atma. When the identification shifts from the body, mind, intellect to Atma, then the Ahankar and Mamakar goes away. That is what is freedom. Freedom is not freedom from things. Freedom is freedom from the arrogating self. The me and mine, the I. That is the real freedom. You understand? So therefore, you do whatever you want. If it is not supported by knowledge of the self, how are you going to conquer the Ahankar and Mamakar? They are not going to go. So you are going to be bound by it. That's why it's very, very important. Whatever you may do or don't do, or if you don't perform any action also, if indulgence or withdrawal not supported by knowledge, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. Or regulated lifestyle. Neither indulgence nor denial. You may follow regulated lifestyle. Even if you are following regulated lifestyle, if it is bereft of awareness, bereft of knowledge, you are not going to become free. It's the knowledge of the self that will make you free. Isn't it? The identification has to change and the perception has to change. Today, what is the perception? Without this knowledge, what is the perception? I am this body, mind, intellect, and this body is born in this world. Isn't it? You see so many people born and then they die. So the perception today is, I am that individual who's born in the world, who's also going to perish one day. Whereas when you gain the knowledge of the self, after reflection on that, your perception will change. You will thereafter not have the perception that I am somebody who is born in the world, living in the world. You will clearly understand that actually the world is in me from a relative point of view, and from the absolute point of view, there is no world, nothing in me. Me alone, me meaning the Atma alone exists. When that level you reach, that is liberation. So therefore he says, 100 lives just following mechanical rituals without the knowledge is no way to liberation by all beliefs. By all beliefs in the sense Advaita, Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita, whichever method you take, you need to have the knowledge of the self. Whatever beliefs you may have, whatever system of knowledge you may have, Therefore, he says, Sarva Matena. Mata means opinion. Opinion of a particular person given to a particular set of people at a particular time. Some of it may still be relevant, but not necessarily all. But when you talk about Sanatana Dharma, eternal principles, that is applicable at all times to everyone equally. You understand? Therefore, he says, the only thing that will give you freedom is the real understanding of who you are. Unless and until you gain that knowledge, you are not going to become free from Ahankar and Mamakar. What ties you is your Ahankar and Mamakar. What frees you is the knowledge of your true self, by which you understand that I have nothing to do with this body. I have nothing to do with mind. I have nothing to do with intellect. You are the one who is limiting yourself. Nobody else. So you are the one who has to gain the knowledge and stop this identification with this limiting self. This much we have seen. Now let's go down to shloka number 18.
सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्याभूतलमजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रहभोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः.
Here he is using one particular word, which is tyaga. The word says, Sura Mandira Taru Moolani Vasaha, dwelling under tree in temple. The person is dwelling in the temple under a tree. Dwelling not just physical, but mentally also. Shifting not just his place of living, he shifted it completely to temple, meaning what? His thoughts are all the time on the divine self. That's what it means. Temple, a place where God is installed or supposedly residing. Place of worship. So dwelling under a tree in temple, and then sleeping on the ground. Sleeping on the ground in the sense, not so much time is wasted in dedicating it for the comfort of the body. You understand? The attention is now shifted to the Atma, the higher aspects. Then you don't really that much spend time in taking care of, in beautifying the body. Not taking care of, beautifying the body. You're not so much body centered thereafter. That's what it means when he says sleeping on the ground. Sleeping on the ground doesn't mean you have to sleep on the ground if you want realization. Oh, should I not sleep on the bed? Should I shift my address to temple? Every one of our class members' Aadhaar card address is some temple nearby. Why? Because I am Bhaja Govindam student. That is not what he is saying. Your thought should be in the temple. And sleeping on the ground in the sense, a simple living, because your thoughts are not anymore so much wasted in the, upkeep of the body. And then wearing skin. See, they are all sages and saints living in the forest, jungle. So whatever dead skin that is there of an animal or something, they wear it. So some basic, essential things they wear. That's all it means. Then he says, one important thing he mentions, renunciation, renouncing all possession and enjoyment. Kartrutva bhoktrutva. You understand? Possessiveness, they give up. When he says renouncing all possession and enjoyment, he is introducing the word tyaga here, which is renunciation. The tyaga is what? An outcome of jnanam, which I explained to you. When the flower matures into a fruit, the petals of the flower automatically fall away. Similarly, when a child is exposed to the higher realms of life, the toy world with which the child is attached is automatically dropped. So the tyag or giving up is a result of growing up. Remember that. So whenever you say tyag means growing up, you should replace the word giving up with growing up. Growing up means knowledge. So in the previous shloka I already said, bereft of knowledge, all these are waste. So here it is with knowledge. With the knowledge of the self, the person is dwelling in the temple, under a tree, leading a simple life, sleeping on the ground, wearing skin, etc. And he is not interested in wasting his time 24/7 in just acquisition and enjoyment alone. He understands that whatever I have acquired is the prasad of the Lord. It is to be used for us in life to get back to the self. And not just merely indulge in it. Because when a person has knowledge of the higher, he will also have knowledge about the lower aspects of life. He understands that all of them are impermanent in life. Things that gives joy today means what? It's potential sorrow. It's going to give you sorrow someday. Your attachment to your children gives you joy. And when they go abroad for their higher studies, 4 or 5 years, and then when they say, I'm going to work there only, and then they say, I've got a girl here, I'm going to marry here only, all the time what is happening? Pain, दुख हो रहा है. क्यों? जो चीज़ आपको enjoyment दिया था पहले, it will certainly give you दुख. You understand? Therefore, his mind is taken away from enjoyment also. Neither possession is considered as mine, nor I think that I am this body, mind, intellect, and my life is just to acquire and enjoy. And such a person, he says, to him will not dispassion bring happiness. His happiness is not something that comes from the object. It is that comes from the growth. It is that which comes from within. You understand? Will not dispassion bring him happiness? He is asking us. One student is asking, when a person is leading such a simple life, a regulated lifestyle, with knowledge of the self, as a result his mind is become free. Renunciation means mind becoming free. Please understand. Isn't it? If supposing somebody says, I'm inviting all of you for a party at home. Why? I'm celebrating 25th year of giving up cigarette. That means that fellow is not given up cigarette. He's physically given up the cigarette. But mentally the cigarette is occupying his space. Isn't it? Therefore, when you say renunciation, means mind has lost its value for all these things. As long as it has value and it expects and it thinks that the object can bring happiness, it expects from it, it will continue. But when the mind understands that these objects are all useless, they are shadow. They can't really give me happiness. They may give me happiness in the garb of happiness, they'll give you slowly sorrow. So he is not going to be attached to joy alone. He is not going to be attached to sorrow. He just stands in middle and does what has to be done and moves on. So to him will not dispassion bring happiness? Of course it will. That's what he's saying. So it's basically rising the mind to that higher realms of life. It's not withdrawing our contacts with the world. You may not. It doesn't really matter. If the mind has not been given a higher direction, it's a total waste of time. Supposing you shift your house from wherever you are living in Delhi to the next house to the ashram. So what? So what's the big deal? There are so many people living next to the temple. Either have never been to the temple or been once in a while. But people from all over the world come to the temple. The fellows who are living next door, they go very rarely. Isn't it? It's like that. So therefore, he very clearly in these two shlokas says it is the knowledge out of which the renunciation that comes. Without that, it is not spiritual. The real essence of spirituality is renunciation. The real essence of spirituality is what? Renunciation. See, in the Middle East, when I used to be there was this gentleman who was working in a big multinational company. He had lost his wife many years ago and he has no children. So, when the company has provided him HRA, house rent allowance and all that, with that amount that they provide him, he could have easily rented a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house, apartment. But he said, no, listen, I am anyway single and I don't want to create samsara also. So he said, no, I will rent a furnished apartment. So he rented a very simple 2-bedroom furnished apartment for the same cost with which he could have easily rented unfurnished 4-bedroom house. Okay. Now, nothing in the house belongs to him except a small suitcase in which he has few set of clothes. Isn't it? So when he retired, nothing for him to pack. Simply took his suitcase and left. Why I am giving this example is, in spiritual field, when you have got that knowledge, you will also live like that. Oh, so many years I have put in efforts, I have developed this, I am the one. Literally from Apple, Steve Jobs was removed. You know that, no? Steve Jobs had to leave Apple. And later on they brought him again. That's life. There are many times it happens in politics also. The fellow who started the party, he's thrown out. Isn't it? Somebody else come and take over. So, in other words, all these are only teaching us this. There is nothing here is mine. So why should I develop this attachment? We should be like that gentleman I talked about in Dubai, He had his suitcase. Whether they throw him or he retires, he just have to book the ticket and leave. That's it. In our case, so many things we have to do. Because we have developed that kind of an entanglement. So mentally speaking, we should live like that. Oh, इतना किया मैंने, मुझे बाहर जाने के लिए बोल दिया. And then you blame that person, this person. See, please understand. Please understand. Mind is of the nature of changing. It will change. Nothing in this universe is permanent. Everything is in passing, fleeting, transient condition. So when you understand that, you will not have exaggerated value for them. When time comes, you should be ready to say bye and leave. If you are truly spiritual, if the knowledge has gone into you, whether or not you are able to chant Bhaja Govindam, Bhagavad Gita, Atma Bodha, etc., you are a spiritual person. The other fellow may know all this, but he is not renounced. He is not spiritual. The real essence of spirituality is renunciation. That is spirituality. Everything else is not spirituality. Real essence is what? Tyag. Somebody asked, what is the essence of Gita? And the Swami said, just repeat the word Gita. Continuously repeat. Gita, 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 Gita. It comes Tyagi, 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 Tyagi. You understand? So when you repeat the word Gita, it becomes Tyagi, Tyagi. So the real essence of the knowledge is Tyag. If that is missing, you still having the arrogating ego, the arrogating self. To that extent, you haven't still digested the knowledge. You haven't turned spiritual to that extent. Everything else doesn't matter. Nothing matters. How many people attend your lectures? Where all you lectured? Have you gone around the world? Do you know Bhagavad Gita fully? Can you chant it upside down, in reverse direction? All that doesn't matter. Renunciation word. Please understand that. Tyag. Isa vasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Thena thyaktena bunjita magrada kasya suddhanam. It's the very first mantra of Isa Vasya Upanishad. Everything is provided by Isha. See, renunciation means renunciation of the name and form. In what will you renounce the name and form? You renounce the name necklace. You renounce the name ring. You renounce the name anklet. In what? In the knowledge of gold. सब कुछ gold ही है. Isn't it? When you go to these banks and say, I want to mortgage my gold, all my jewelries, and then take loan because I'm expanding my business or building a house or something, so I want to take gold loan, right? So you take all your jewelry. You have anklets, bracelets, necklace, nose ring, finger ring, everything. Whatever possible you have. Everything you take and give them. Do they see what is it? Is it bangles? Is it anklet? Is it nose ring? Do they even bother about it? Do they even care? They have put the whole thing because they have tested all our gold. So they'll put the whole thing on the weighing scale and they'll see what is the total weight. And then they'll say, okay, this much worth gold you've given, this much loan we can give you, this will be the interest. Isn't it? Yes or no? So why? The names and forms are renounced in the true knowledge of what that substance is, which is nothing but gold in this example. In the case of pots, it is clay. That's all it is. So when I understand that everything that is there in this universe is nothing but God and God alone, then what are we talking about me and mine and I? All stupidity. Therefore he says, bereft of knowledge it will not work. To a person who has dispassion only can achieve this. When he asks question, will not dispassion bring happiness to that person? Of course it will. Why it will? He'll explain next in the next shloka. Because what is important is where the thoughts are. That is the main thing. Where the thoughts are. Next shloka.
योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा संगरतो वा संगविहीनः यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चित्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव.
Very often quoted shloka and a very interesting shloka as well. It says, Yogaratova Bhogaratova. Yoga word and the word Bhoga is used here in the context to mean mere external practices. When you say bhoga, means external practices. And yoga means internal practice, spiritual discipline. That's what yoga means. So when he says yogaratova bhogaratova, whether in yoga or in bhoga, reveling in yoga or reveling in bhoga. Bhoga means sense objects, sense indulgence, sense enjoyments. So reveling in spiritual discipline or sensual enjoyment. And then he says, Sangaratova Sangavihinaha. Reveling in the spiritual discipline or sense enjoyment, reveling in company or without company. Sangha means attachment, group. Whether in group or living in solitude. He whose mind rests in Brahman. Yasya Brahmani ramate chittam nandati 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 eva. So one whose mind is set in Brahman, rests in Brahman. Yasya Brahmani ramate chittam. Ramate means reveling. The chittam of the person is reveling in the divinity, not in the petty issues of the world. Such a person, he says, is happy, happy, verily happy. 3 times. Why 3 times? Because we have body, mind, intellect. At all these 3 levels, the person maintains happiness. How is that possible? It is because the person's identification is only with the Brahman, which is what? Ananda Swarupa. The nature of Atma is what? Happiness. Since he is identifying with Brahman, he is happy 24/7, 365 days. So when the person's mind is in Brahman, thereafter whether the person is in yoga or bhoga doesn't matter. But in the beginning you need satsang, don't forget. He gives shloka number 19 after giving shloka number 9. What is shloka number 9? Satsangatve nisangatvam nisangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatve nischalatatvam nischalatatve jivan muktihi. So in shloka number 9, he talked about satsang is important. In 13 he emphasizes it again. Now he says, a person who's followed the satsang, who's followed the spiritual discipline and has united with Brahman 24/7, 365 days, only and only moving in the light of pure consciousness, without losing identification with it, that person doesn't matter what lifestyle the fellow follows, whether yoga or bhoga. It doesn't really matter. The person may be seemingly in bhoga, but inside the thought of that person is only on Brahman, nothing else. He is established in Brahman. See, till we establish, we need satsang. But once I am established, what lifestyle I follow doesn't really matter. Because we call it as pravritti marg and nivritti marg, no? Nivritti marg means renunciation path. Vanaprastha, sannyas, etc. Pravritti marg means grahasashrama, living in the world, acting. So what lifestyle you follow doesn't really matter. King Janaka chose to be a king and he continued married after liberation. He didn't walk out. He continued doing his duty as a king and as husband, whatever it is, isn't it? So he followed a lifestyle of wealth. What is wrong in that? You should neither have interest in enjoying wealth nor have interest in not enjoying wealth. Interest in not enjoying wealth is a condition. When you realize the self, you should have no condition whatsoever. You understand? There is no interest in not acting also. So therefore the person may do activities in the world but his thoughts are always established in Brahman and Brahman alone. That's why he says, Yogaratova, Bhogaratova. Whether in yoga or in bhoga, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam. And the Chittam is constantly contemplating and drawing its sense of joy from the Atma, totally self-sufficient, not dependent on anything outside. Such a person, he says, Nandati, Nandati, Nandateva. See, even in life, a person who has a broad mind, when some instance happens in a relationship, he sees from the other person's point of view. Therefore, it doesn't affect him. But the other fellow sees from his own perspective. Oh, they have not invited me. They invited everybody. They probably tried calling you, the number did not reach. He is not going to think like that. All the time it's about me. Very narrow mind, Not an expanded self. So here he is talking about that expanded self. And such a person is absolutely self-sufficient. Sangaratova sangavihinaha. Another word. Sangha means group, attachment. Sangavihinaha means in solitude. Either way, the person's mind is in Atma. So that's the idea, To keep the mind completely established in Atma, Brahman, is not easy. We do all kinds of things, but it has to be constantly established in Brahman. That's why even after studying and reading, we need to really do a lot of contemplation and meditation upon the Lord. Divinity. So it really doesn't matter. Yoga or Bhoga, Sangha or Sangha Vihina. Now when he says this, you straight away say, see, I told you, it doesn't matter what lifestyle I live. You live, but you're not quoting the other half of the verse. What is that? Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam. In the head, thought should be of Brahman. Now in our case, it's ulta. We are seen in the temple, but the thought is of the movie theatre outside the temple. Isn't it? A person is sitting in the temple, but where is the thought? That new movie is released in the theatre. I am missing it. What's the point? Sometimes it happens, I'll tell you, in many years ago, in 2003, I think, and there was this cricket World Cup that time. Now also T20 World Cup is going on, but I'm talking about 50 overs match. One day cricket World Cup match was being held in South Africa, I think. So I used to have a evening class, and the match always starts around afternoon, ends at night, So evening I have a class that day, and the match was between India and Pakistan, So I'm talking about, it was in Middle East again. So what happened? One of our class members, they booked seats in hotel. They telecast these matches on the TV channels, which they project on a big screen. So it booked some chairs for us. So we went in the afternoon to watch the match. Lot of Pakistanis with their Pakistan flag, lot of Indians with Indian flag. All of us were sitting, having fun at each other and, watching the match. And evening I have a class, so I can't watch the match fully, and these class members also come to the match with me. So I said at a particular time we have to leave for the class. I said, if you guys want to watch, you watch, but I have to go. They said, no, sir, we'll also come. So they came with me. We went to the place where we used to have discussion. So, but the match is still not over. And India was in a winning position, but still not completely over. So when I went to the place where the lecture used to happen, one of the class members said, sir, they have a showroom there in that building, Niche, ground floor. The showroom, they had these televisions and all that, where the matches were going on. Sir, I'll just watch this last 2-3 overs, then I'll come up. You please go, he said. He was so attached. So I said, okay, watch and go. Watch and come. So I went upstairs. We started the class. Om Sahana Vautu. We said the invocation. When I opened the eyes, this fellow came in. He came in and sat down there. And all the class members are looking at me. No, I'm sitting opposite to them, facing them. They're all facing me. So he comes and quietly sits there and then shows me thumbs up. Meaning India's won. You understand? He's sitting in the class. But where is his thought? In the match. That's why he's showing thumbs up. And he's very happy. India has won against Pakistan. His thoughts are there. At least now the match is over, he can peacefully concentrate. So like that he says, you are giving so much importance to this external paraphernalia. While when you are following the spiritual path to get to that liberation, following a certain disciplined way of living, satsang and all that, very, very helpful. Very helpful. But once you have reached, really doesn't matter. Because to the extent you are having the thought of Brahman in you, to that extent, nothing can affect you. See, when a lady is sleeping, even in the sleep, in her subconscious mind, she knows she is lady. You understand? It's not that somebody has to constantly remind you are a lady, oh, you're a man, somebody. No. You very subconsciously, you know that you're a man. You very subconsciously, you know that you are a woman. Similarly, when you reflect on this knowledge, slowly you will get established in the Brahman, in the truth, in the self, in Atma. Thereafter, nothing can shake you, disturb you from that knowledge. In the beginning, you can be tested easily. You can easily be tested in the beginning. See, Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a realized soul. Understand? Mahaguru he is. The Guru of Swami Vivekananda. And many sages and saints he has produced in his ashram. Now, he is not a person who, though he has realized the self, he is not like Swami Vivekananda who presents the subject all the time only logically. Whereas Vivekananda was different. But he is established in Brahman. So there was another gentleman during his time, I believe his name was, I think, Keshav Chandra. And he was an atheist. And he goes about everything very logical, methodical way of arguing. So once he came to debate with Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And Keshav Chandra was debating and arguing that there is no God with pure logic. It is going on arguing point after point. And Swami Ramakrishna started jumping with joy as he is arguing. He said, hey, what is happening here? Why this Swami started jumping? He is jumping with joy and then he goes and hugs him tightly and says, who else can argue better than God? Like this. In the sense, Keshav Chandra is arguing against God, that there is no God. That is his point. And he is talking so logically, so precisely. And Swamiji is jumping with joy and going and hugging him. And says, who else can argue like this other than God himself? In other words, afterwards apparently Keshav Chandra Maharaj, he accepted. He said, Arere, I have been constantly arguing with so many people. Intellectually, I tried to call them for debates, and they also came. I've defeated them because they all had only concept of God. Whereas this guy, this Swami, is not having concept of God. This Swami has realization of God. So there is no way I can defeat this fellow. You understand? There is no way I can take away his vision, his perception. He is rooted in it. He is realized. So he accepted his defeat, it seems. I read it in some book. So what I'm trying to say is, if supposing you have deep conviction in Sri Krishna, you know why he did what he did, when he did, etc. Whatever the stories may say, whatever the other people may criticize about Sri Krishna, it will not take away your devotion to Sri Krishna, isn't it? Oh, okay. I didn't know that he had 16,000 wives. Oh my God. Okay. No. I'm not going to be devoted to Sri Krishna anymore. Now onwards, my devotion is to Lord Rama only. Or Hanumanji only. Means what? You have not been deeply convinced. You understand? A fellow who is totally established, nobody can shake. Not possible. So that's why he says, a person who's reached the self and all the time only 24/7, 365 days, only thinking about Atman, Brahman, nothing else. See, once a person gains the knowledge, it is understanding of one's own swabhava. Understand? Swarupa. I understand that my nature is Atma, infinite bliss. I am Akhandananda. It's not that I want to have Akhandananda experience, or it's not that I had an Akhandananda experience. No. You might have had an Akhandananda experience in the dream, but it is of no use now. You might have had an Akhandananda experience in the meditation yesterday or this morning, but it is of no use now because it was an experience you had. But if you have known, understood, established in the fact that you are Akhandananda, unbroken bliss, how can somebody distort that? That's not possible, no? Isn't it? That's not possible. You know, in the what do you call this? Auditoriums, there are theatres. They have these green rooms, no? They have one green room for men, one for women. Let us say in a particular drama, a man is dressing up as woman and acting as a woman. Will he go to men's green room or women's green room? Obviously he'll go to men's green room. Because he knows he is man. He's only acting as a woman. You understand? So, deeply he is convinced, he knows. Nobody can shake that fellow's understanding. That's what he's talking about. Yogaratova, bhogaratova, sangaratova, sangavihinaha. So, therefore, he is not saying sangha doesn't matter. Of course, sangha doesn't matter once you are established. Lifestyle doesn't matter. There are quite a few Swamis who were not renunciates. In the sense like King Sri Krishna himself was not a sannyasi. Oh, you will say, oh no, he is an avatara or a part of the Mahabharata. You forget about him. Give us some other example. Janaka continued to be the king. You understand? Our own Guru, Swami Parthasarathiji, Swamiji, he is married. He didn't take up sannyas. You understand? So, in other words, it doesn't really matter whether you are in Pravritti Marga or Nivritti Marga. Nivritti means sannyas, Pravritti means samsara. Samsara meaning grahastha. But they don't have samsara if they have knowledge. So, therefore, he says, reveling in spiritual discipline or sense enjoyment. See, many times what happens, you may be in contact with the senses. At that time, of course, you are in contact with the senses. But before and after, the senses are not occupying your mind. Even during the contact, it's not occupying your mind. That is called renunciation. So, if you say renunciation means giving up physically, but mentally the person is thinking, what kind of renunciation is that? So, a person may physically be in contact, but mentally free. You understand? That is called real renunciation. So, therefore, he says, Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sangavihinaha. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam Nandati Nandati Nandat Eva. So a true ascetic is one who is rooted in Brahman. And having rooted himself in Brahman, he may go about acting in the world through the body, feeling various emotions through the mind, thinking thoughts of the world, going about living in the world. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. But there may be another fellow who's not established in Brahman, but maybe in Akar robe, etc. That fellow has to be careful. So till you are not established, you better have satsang. What group you are in matters. To the extent you have got the knowledge, to that extent it really doesn't matter. So that's why, we said when you're doing sadhana, sloka number 9. What is that? Satsangatve nissangatvam. Nissangatve nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nishalatattvam. Nishalatatve jivan mukti. But once you become jivan mukta, then sloka number 19. Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sangavihina. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam Nandati Nandati Nandateva. Everything will be only reminding you of Brahman, nothing else. Whatever you see is Brahman. There is nothing else other than Brahman. When there is nothing else other than Brahman, how can you have value for it? Separate. You know it is Brahman. That's it. So there is no exaggerated value. Mind is not entertaining any thoughts. So that's why he says Chittam. In the thought, it should be Brahman. See the problem, where is the problem? The problem is in your head. That's what he wants to say. See, we all think the problem is outside. Therefore, we are trying to find the solution also outside. But you must understand that the problem is inside. It's not outside. Is it the possessions that is the problem? No. We just discussed it, no? It is the me and mine that is the problem. When you're listening to a news, the TV news channel you're watching, and the news reader is reading the news, and she's saying there was a crash, aeroplane crash. All the passengers died. Very unfortunate. You may feel very, very sorry, but you're not very much affected. Why? None of your relatives or friends or immediate family members were on the flight. Isn't it? It doesn't matter. Then it's only news for you. Isn't it? But if somebody very close to you were in the flight, then will it just remain the news? Then you will be terribly affected. Why? मेरा है उसमें. उसमें मेरा है. You understand? So what is causing the affectation? The affectation is not because of the plane crash. The affectation is due to your attachment. Mera. Are you with me? So, therefore, jab tak that mera is there, it's a problem. So, when that mera goes and there, Bhagavan is there, truth is there, reality is there, Brahman is there, Atma is there, then no affectation whatsoever. No lifestyle will be able to make any dent on you. There is thereafter no problem. Once you have understood that you are Brahman, you can go anywhere you want. But till you have not understood, be careful. Continue doing your tapas. Continue doing your tapas. Because your perception is still not changed. Your identification is still with the body, mind, intellect. And you have to be careful. You need protection. Like they say, no, this antibiotic dose, you have to take fully. If you have not completed the course, it will come back. Isn't it? Even for tuberculosis, they give medication. They say you have to complete the course. If you don't complete the course, it will come back. So therefore, once you've completed the course, thereafter there is completely gone. You won't get it. So that's what he's saying. Yogaratova, bhogaratova. Whether you are in spiritual discipline or in sense enjoyment. Amidst senses. Sangaratova, sangavihinaha. Amidst crowd or in solitude. What is the condition? Now if you see in sloka number 18, he said, bereft of knowledge, you cannot attain freedom. And in sloka number 17, he said, bereft of knowledge, you cannot attain freedom. Shloka number 18, he said, as a result of the knowledge, what he said in 18, he said, you will have tyaga. A person who has dispassion, tyaga, how can he be not happy? He will be happy. So he used the word knowledge, he used the word renunciation. Now he is saying one whose thought is well established in Brahman. Somebody apparently gave a mala to Hanumanji, gave it as a gift. He put it to his ears. He didn't say Ram, he threw it. If it doesn't say Ram, what will I use it for? I have no use for it. And he threw it. So in the sense, when a person is completely established in Brahman, there is nothing else other than Brahman. His only value is Brahman. There is nothing else for him to value anything. Are you with me? So therefore, he says, Nandati, Nandati, Nandateva. 3 times he says, Nandati, Nandati, Nandati. Why? When he is acting through the body, he will be happy. When he is contacting the world through the mind, he will be happy. When he is contacting the world through the intellect, he will be happy. At all levels, when he is contacting, he will only be happy, happy, happy. Because he is not contacting out of attachment. He is contacting out of knowledge. Therefore, his happiness cannot be robbed by anybody at any point in time. His happiness is not something that comes from the fulfillment of the desire. His happiness is an expression of his nature. Isn't it? See, when the bulb is connected to the electricity, automatically it gives light. Similarly, when you have realized the self and the nature of the self is Akhandananda, you will be happy. How can you be unhappy? Whatever may be the condition, whether that person fulfills something that he... See, the thing is, when you realize the self, you will... The prarabdha vasanas are there. So some likes and dislikes may be there. So what? What is wrong in that? Isn't it? Nothing wrong. But if you are not realized, enlightened, evolved, then the fulfillment of a like is a condition. You will be happy only if the like is fulfilled. Isn't it? If the like is not fulfilled, you will be very unhappy. Now, here, whatever you may experience, whether the condition is fulfilled or not, you will continue to be happy. Why? Because your happiness is not something that is coming from the fulfillment of desire. It is the expression of your nature. Are you getting it? Your nature itself is happiness. That's what he says. So thereafter that fellow, wherever he goes, in walking, talking, sleeping, in everything, he will be happy, 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 nothing else. So, this person is very clear. The problem is not outside. The problem is inside. And to strengthen the inside, you need satsang in the beginning. But once the inside is strengthened, then all kinds of protection you had can be removed. No problem. Isn't it? See, in the beginning, what will you do? You will have some kind of a hold on the child, because the child may fall. But once the child is grown up, you let go. Why? Internal strength mil gaya. You understand? So we all, until and unless we are rooted in the self, we all lack that internal strength. We all depend on something outside. We lack self-sufficiency. Whereas in that fellow's case, self-sufficiency is completely attained. It's one of the most important traits of an evolved person. It's one of the most important traits of a mentally well person. See, when you talk about mental wellness, self-sufficiency, self-reliance, these are all traits of a strong mind. You understand? A weak mind relies on something outside. A weak mind is not self-sufficient. So that's what he's talking about. When the person has realized the self, a person is self-reliant, self-sufficient. So whatever may be the condition, whether it is according to the likes or not likes, it doesn't matter. He will continue to be happy, 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 verily happy. The VT book, Vedanta Treatise book, Swamiji has quoted this. For him in vain, the envious seasons roll, who bears eternal sunshine in his soul. I think it's a quotation by Samuel Coleridge. I'm not sure. I may be wrong. But the quotation is very interesting. It says, for him in vain, the envious seasons roll, who bears eternal summer in his soul. You know, in England, they all look forward for the sun coming out. So, all the time, they are waiting for the sun to come out. And when the sun comes out, they wanted to be in it. That's why they started cricket. But the madness went to the extent where they go and play cricket in Sharjah, where it is so hot. You understand? Anyway, so he says, when a person has got the sunlight within, he says the envious seasons roll. Seasons become envious. For him in vain, the envious seasons roll, who bears eternal sunshine in his soul. He is inside having sunshine. So it doesn't matter. So when the seasons roll, he is not affected. Seeing that, the seasons get envious, it seems. Arey yaar, so much we are doing, he is not getting affected, while all the other fellows are affected. Like that, really doesn't matter. Yoga doesn't affect. Bhoga doesn't taint. Simply remains absolutely pure. As pure as he went in, he comes out. Do we have that kind of a capacity today? Can we go in anywhere and come back without any taint? Not possible. Isn't it? We go and live somewhere, we get tainted by that environment. Some habit, something from that place we pick up. Isn't it? We should be very, very pure even after we have gone through that. For that, you should establish yourself in knowledge. When you establish yourself in knowledge, nothing can affect. Let's conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyairva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Adyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayana Yeti Samarpayami.